It starts as a little spring, emerging high on the eastern slope of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains. Slowly, it gathers its strength from hundreds of streams and brooks as it goes. Then, at what is called the confluence, the Rappahannock meets its biggest tributary, the Rapidan River, absorbing its waters as well as its name. At Fredericksburg, the Rappahannock reaches the fall line and changes character. The rest of its nearly 200-mile pathway to the bay will be smoother, deeper, and free of rocks and rapids. Below Fredericksburg, the Rappahannock is already an arm of the Chesapeake, subject to the ebb and flow of its tides. Approaching Port Royal, the river spreads out into its ancient floodplain and runs through rich, productive farmlands. At Rappahannock, it is already a mile wide. Rolling past Urbana, Irvington, Whitestone, the Rappahannock pours its 4-mile wide waters into the Chesapeake Bay. The Rappahannock adds its ceaseless flow to that of 150 other rivers and streams, draining parts of 6 states to sustain the largest estuary in the United States. The earliest maps show Native American villages all along the bay and rivers like the Rappahannock, and human habitation probably stretches back nearly 10,000 years before that. The Rappahannock provided an almost unimaginable bounty of seafood for the native fishermen, who harvested it in ways that were sustainable for millennia. The first European to sail up the Rappahannock is English explorer John Smith, searching for a passage to the Pacific. Between a broad marsh and what is today known as Fones Cliffs, he is attacked by Indians from the Rappahannock tribe, who fear intrusion into their ancient hunting and fishing grounds. But Smith escapes the ambush and pushes on, until he reaches the boulders and rapids of the fall line at present-day Falmouth, the limit of ship navigation. The Rappahannock would not be his dreamed-of route to the west. By the 18th century, the first ports are established at Falmouth and Fredericksburg. Shipping increases rapidly, and plantations flourish all along the river. Rappahannock water turns the wheels of dozens of mills on the upper river for over 200 years. They now crumble slowly by the riverbanks, mills that once ground wheat into flour, considered by Europeans to be among the finest products of the New World. To bypass the rapids and dams of the upper river and carry goods down to Fredericksburg, a canal system is built for the narrow cargo boats known as bateaux. On each section of the canal are locks that lower the heavily laden bateaux heading downriver and raise those going upriver. With 47 locks and 15 miles of canal, it takes over a decade to build the Rappahannock navigation system, but its investors will never see a penny of profit. But in the lower Rappahannock, the steamboat is king for more than a century, carrying passengers and cargo, picked up at 36 landings along the river to Baltimore and Norfolk. Shipped north and south, the bounty of the Rappahannock, crabs, oysters, and fish, seemed unlimited. While oysters were plentiful, there were jobs for young and old in the shucking houses. But by the mid-20th century, pollution, disease, and overfishing slowly decimated the oysters and other species. In the 1980s, there were growing concerns about the health of the Rappahannock and its aquatic life. In Fredericksburg, the river's largest city, outdoor enthusiasts began to organize. One of those enthusiasts was former school teacher and local river outfitter, Bill Mix.
There was a lot of locals who were very interested in working together and forming a group which became known as the Friends of the Rappahannock. And I continued providing support for them for all their educational and interpretive trips, began fundraisers for the Friends of the Rappahannock, and have been lucky to be a part of their success over the years.
For 150 years, dams had been a major impediment to the age-old migration of herring and shad to their spawning grounds in the upper river. By the late 90s, the last dam is obsolete, and Friends of the Rappahannock lead a movement to tear it down. February 2004, Army engineers wire the old dam with plastic explosives. On demolition day, a crowd of thousands waits in anticipation. Just after 12 noon, the countdown starts. After 150 years, the river runs free again, from the mountains to the bay. The removal of the dam opens over 700 miles of the upper Rappahannock, the Rapidan and their tributaries, to fish that live in saltwater and spawn in freshwater. And the fish are not the only winners.
My name's Lee Silito. I'm the watershed property manager for the city of Fredericksburg. My job is to patrol 33 miles of river frontage on the Rappahannock and Rapidan rivers. This property was purchased by the city of Fredericksburg back in 1969, and it's been put into a conservation easement, so no building or traffic or human encroachment can happen on it. The river itself is amazing. It feeds over 3 counties with drinking water. So my job is to actually protect the river from pollutants and encroachments. It's beautiful because the river itself has all kinds of wildlife, all kinds of vegetation, and all still at its natural state.
Former executive director of Friends of the Rappahannock, John Tippett, led the campaign to remove the dam and permanently protect 4,000 acres of land above it.
Well, that was a great trip, and we've stopped here to talk about how unique and special this river is. And one of the most special things about the Rappahannock is that the 31 miles that are upstream from us right here are protected on both sides by perpetual conservation easement. And that means that your grandchildren and their grandchildren and their grandchildren will have the same experience that we just had floating down that river. Now the river is the longest free-flowing river in the state of Virginia, all the way up to its headwaters in the Blue Ridge, and you can see how special this is. The challenge that we deal with is, even though the river is so unique and special and the water looks so clear, it's hiding some things that cause problems and don't play out right here in the middle basin, but play out downstream. And that is nitrogen and phosphorus, 2 chemicals that come off of the land, that come from our own uses. They're colorless, they're odorless, they're tasteless, but downstream they form dead zones, which affect the livelihood of our oystermen, of our crabbers, the whole seafood economy.
Recognizing the importance of the lower river, FOR created the position of River Steward. Richard Moncure, a 3rd-generation waterman, holds that post.
Some of the most intimate experiences the river has to offer take place here in these wetlands. The wetlands are the protective skin of the river. Not only do they buffer from land pollution, but they also absorb the nutrient pollution, which is a critical problem for the health of the river. They're also habitat for our crabs, our juvenile fishes, spawning grounds for things like striped bass, and they provide the balance that the ecosystem needs.
So on a beautiful day like today, it's hard to tell that the river's ill, but just below the surface, the river suffers from too much nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment pollution. The nitrogen and the phosphorus fuel algae blooms. The algae grow so fast in blooms that they can't support themselves, and when they die, they decompose, and that process of decomposition sucks the oxygen from the water. The sediment clouds out the sunlight and doesn't allow the aquatic vegetation to grow and go through its process of photosynthesis.
With the health of the river a constant concern, water samples are taken regularly to measure oxygen, salinity, and turbidity, looking for warning signs that trouble is beneath the surface.
If we do clean up the water, if we reduce the effects of stormwater runoff, we're going to have a healthier watershed. That means more oysters, more crabs, more rockfish.
Today, when torrential rains fall and the creeks burst their banks, along with their load of silt from cleared lands, they carry fertilizers, organic waste, and carelessly discarded trash. Air pollution from industrial sources to the west falls with every rain shower in the Rappahannock region. Nature cleanses rainwater by filtering it through the soil. Today, more and more rain collects on impermeable surfaces like rooftops, roads, and parking lots as development accelerates. Air and surface pollutants combine on the hard surfaces of our increasingly paved-over region. As all this runs into the river and far beyond, it symbolizes our neglect of and indifference toward the very water that sustains us. For over 30 years, Friends of the Rappahannock has served as the voice of the river. Its current executive director, Kathleen Harrigan, leads a dedicated staff of professionals and volunteers.
Friends of the Rappahannock has three main pillars of the work that we do to protect and restore the river: advocacy, restoration, and education. In advocacy, we work at several different scales, everything from working with individual homeowners so that they know what they can do to protect the river and restore the river from their backyard, to working with local governments and large communities to help them understand what they can do on a large-scale basis, zoning ordinances and protective environmental conservation easements. What they can do to help protect the river is important for the Friends of the Rappahannock to reach out to folks and create ambassadors for the river in all parts of our watershed.
Over the years, 60,000 children have passed through FOR's education programs for hands-on learning about the importance of the river to their lives. Restoration and prevention are also vital elements in FOR's action plan for protecting the river. Installing rain gardens prevents stormwater runoff from going directly into the river. Instead, it is diverted into the ground to be cleansed by the Earth's natural filter. Farmers are encouraged to fence their cattle out of nearby waterways, reducing stream bank erosion and waste runoff. Where erosion and damage have already occurred, innovative techniques have been developed to restore stream banks to their natural form and condition, such as the use of biodegradable sacks of mushroom spores and earth. In many places along the river, waterside development has stripped the natural shoreline of its vegetation. Students frequently join FOR staff and learn and do collaborations to create buffers of plants and grasses that will hold the shoreline in place. With increasing development, there is an ever greater demand for clean water to serve the growing population, making the Rappahannock more important and vital than ever. The Fredericksburg region draws its water from the river and its adjacent reservoirs to serve tens of thousands of homes and businesses. Through a series of pipes and pumps, it is brought to water treatment plants, where the river's water is filtered and purified and made ready for use. Without thinking about it, we depend on the river every day. We drink it, we bathe in it, and we play in it.
Rivers have always been important, and they will continue to be. And we as citizens, as people of the Riverlands, need to be cognizant of their importance and to be good stewards thereof. We are blessed by the waters of this river. God bless us when He gave us rivers.
All of us that live in the corridor, in the watershed of the Rappahannock River, who drink the water, brush our teeth, bathe, we are 70% water, so we are 70% the river. And bottom line is, we are the river and the river is us.
Friends of the Rappahannock is the voice and active force for a healthy and scenic Rappahannock River from its headwaters to the Chesapeake Bay.